Privyet, comrades, how are you? This is the professor. I hope all is well. Somebody sent me a trailer here, and it was called The Great Patriotic War. And I watched it, I started recording and doing it and watching it, and then I realized about a quarter of the way through it that what this is really kind of a montage, being, pulling from all the different great war films. And some of them I recognized, Stalingrad, I've seen the film. The Woman Sniper, is it 28? I think it's 28 something. I don't remember the name of it. And some of the footage I've seen is they kind of went back and forth between the different conflicts between Russia and Germany. And I'm not going to show you the trailer because I don't know who owns the rights to what, because this is kind of a fan-made, mashup, really. And but it was really, really good. And I think that this is like basic 101 war films for the Western person who has no idea. We tend to be, people tend to be self-centered, right? It's called the bubble effect. For instance, if all of you guys are in a room together and I walked in and I tripped and stumbled a little bit, I quickly look up to see how many people saw me trip because I'm a little bit embarrassed by it. But chances are not a lot of people saw it because everybody's kind of just self-absorbed in what they're own doing. And I think the same thing can be in our storytelling. So I think like the Americans are used to just stories about them, about our wars, about our battles, about our sacrifices. And we forget that the Soviet Union was a part of that, right? That they were allies that were helping in this thing. And, I think partially because of the Cold War. I think partially just because of our own selfishness. I mean, we recognize a little bit more of Great Britain's sacrifices, but not much. I think it just has to do more with just intrinsic interest, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word. But this is really fascinating to see because this is like a whole new world to me. Because you never heard these stories, what we knew, what we were told, what we taught, what we learned in school, in World War II is really, the demise of Germany is when it decided to fight a two-front war, where it wanted to fight the Americans and the Britons on one side and then go into Russia and try to take Russia. Which, come on, what are you doing, dude? Like, anybody? Did Hitler not have a map? Do you not look at the size of Russia and go, what? They're like the Japanese. They're crazy. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, Japan, we're going to take over China. Did you look at the map? Did anybody look at the map? Like, if I was one of Hitler's generals, I would say, nine, look at the map. Look at the map, dude. Look how big that thing is. I mean, it's like, it's one thing to take, Poland or something, right? But look at the size of Russia, and you don't send them in with enough food and, dude, and then, the big red machine then just kicks their ass, right? Just starts throwing elbows, and it's just, I love that film, Stalingrad. There was a board game I used to play in my young days, and it was called, I think it was called Axis and Allies. And, I was probably in my early 20s, and my wife at the time had a best friend. She was a sweet woman, very sweet woman, but her husband was a douchebag. And I don't know, fellas, if you ever been on like the wives get along, but you cannot stand the dude because he's just such a douche. Like, he's just such a, I don't like this guy. And so he always wanted to play board games, just me and him, and they were like, there was a railroad game. Like, come on, dude, I don't want to build railroad. Like, this is a board game of railroad game? Well, yeah, look, I made a track. Yeah, but he had this game, Axis and Allies, and he always wanted to be the Nazis, which I thought was weird. Like, really? I always want to be the Nazis? So he always wanted to be the Nazis and, the Japanese and the Italians. And that left me, basically with the Americans and Russians. And, the Russians had this thing, so it was like a dice board game thing, and there are certain characteristics of the army, like the Americans. The Americans were really hard to break the morale. You would think that they would break, and then they would rally. It was a constant, like, well, we got the Americans on the rope, and then they would rally. the Russians would go in berserker mode, right? So there was this berserker mode that would happen where you'd have a Russian special unit fighting the Nazis, and they would go berserker and like just go through and just kill everything. And it was like Stalingrad. I mean, that's what it reminded me of when I watched Stalingrad, and that dude who's like in every war film in Russia. I think he's a good actor. I enjoy his stuff. Um, he uh, he was like in berserker mode, fighting off the Germans just like to the very last, bullet to the last. If each one of us takes out 30, we'll get them. And it was a good film. Anyways, but this trailer's kind of a montage of all that. Professor got off on a side rail there, didn't he? He was getting go down that way. It was a good trailer, but I don't think I can show it because I don't know all the studios involved. There were some films in there that I haven't seen in studios I haven't worked with, so I don't know what the repercussions would be on it. And YouTube's really cracking down on some of the stuff right now, and there's a lot of people losing their channels and stuff um, over just fair use, right? And it's unfortunate because people aren't really fighting the fair use. They need to. But anyways, that's another video for another time. But this great patriotic war video was good. Google the title. I'm sure you'll find the original. You can take a look at it. And just really a montage of just great Russian films. Just truly great Russian films. I'm also going to be working on a video because, one of the things that I've just kind of been making a list of how Russia's portrayed in American culture since I was a kid. And I want to kind of just show you the images, and anyways, and please, my friends, my Russian friends, I'm not doing it to make fun of you at all. I'm doing it to try to document, like, how the propaganda in America has portrayed Russia and how we've been geared up to be against one another, right? So that's kind of the idea of it. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support. Russia has become the number one kind of our demographic. It was India for a long time, but my comrades, man, you guys have just been throwing elbows and kicking butt. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. That would be great. You can check out our website. It's an internet radio station. We got a bunch of content up. We're still working and refining, and I'd hope you check it out. We're going to be featuring Russian music. We're going to be doing some Leningrad. We're going to be doing some Pussy Riot, I think, and some other bands that I've come across that I've really enjoyed. What else? Is there anything else I want? Oh, I'm on VK, which is really cool. I'm so far behind on my social media right now. Like, I was out on a business trip and basically spent like 400 miles yesterday, on work, going to different cities, calling on different places. It was a good trip. It was a good trip. It was profitable, successful, but it takes up so much time. You don't get an opportunity to go through and just get caught up on everything. So I'm running behind even more, right? Even more. But just thank you so much for all the videos. I really appreciate it. We got a ton of stuff to get to. You guys have sent a lot of stuff. I'm trying to get through it. Be patient with me. I really appreciate the support. And Elvira, give me a Russian name. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.